Welcome back. If you've been with us from the beginning, you know that we've spent a little bit of time talking about how a manufacturing entity might classify cost, and we've talked about fixed cost and variable cost, and we're going to review those real quick, and we're also going to add a new one to the mix, no pun intended. So we've talked about fixed cost already, and we said that fixed costs were kind of like insurance on the factory, depreciation, salaries, and that kind of thing. They're costs that are going to be fixed regardless of how much we make, or if we make anything at all. We're going to have to pay our fixed cost regardless. We've also talked about variable cost, and those costs are going to vary according to how much we make. So if we're talking about a business that makes cars and manufactures automobiles, tires would be a variable cost. If they make 0 cars, they'll have 0 expense in tires. If they make 1,000,000 cars, they'll have all kinds of expenses in tires. So our variable costs are going to vary according to how many we make. There's one other one that we're going to talk about that kind of has characteristics of a fixed cost, but it also has a variable cost component, and those are what we would call a mixed cost. And to give you an idea of what that might be, if you have a data plan on your cell phone, you know you pay a flat monthly fee every month, and then if you maybe go over your allotted data, you get charged a per gigabyte amount. So that would be an example of a mixed cost. It has a fixed component that you're going to pay regardless, and then a variable component that's going to vary based on how much you use it. So utilities might be another example. A water bill or an electric bill, you may pay a flat fee, and then if you use too much, it'll bill you even more. So we have a way to estimate our mixed cost and kind of break them down into a fixed and variable component. And the formula that we're going to use is actually the same that you'd use in algebra to determine a straight line. The formula is y equals a plus b and the variable x. Y is going to represent our total cost. A in our formula is going to represent the fixed cost. B is going to represent the variable cost, and then X is going to represent the level of activity. So to give you an example of how this might look when we all pull it all together, we could say that we have a cell phone plan that has a $100 flat monthly fee, and then they're going to tack on $2 per gigabyte of data. So we're going to assume we had 24 gigabytes of data that we used up during the month. So Y would equal 100 plus 2 times 24. Okay? Or if you want to do the math, y would equal 100 plus 48, so y would be 148. But keep that formula in mind. We're going to come back to that in one moment. And looking at the problem that we have in the book, it says Wyoming Wholesale has gathered the following data on the number of shipments received and the cost of the reports for the first 7 weeks of 2013. So what the problem wants us to do is develop an equation, just like I showed you, for predicting the weekly receiving report cost based on the number of shipments received. And to do that, we're going to have to incorporate a thing called the high-low method. And essentially, it's just a little trick for coming up with the formula for a line that we just looked at. So here's our data. What we're going to do is kind of a 3-step process here. Now the book outlines it in a few more steps, but I'm trying to break it down in a simple way for you. So we'll just do it in 3 steps here. The first thing we're going to do is find B in our cost equation that I showed you earlier. So to do that, we need to take the cost that we're given at a high level of activity minus the cost at a low level, and then divide that by the high level of activity and the low level of activity. You will always be given this kind of information in the problem. So our job, and that information's right here, is to pick out the high and to pick out the low. So I'm going through there and I see a 60, and he looks like he is probably the biggest number there. So I'm going to designate him with an H and mark that as the high. And now going through, I see 35, and it looks like that is the low. So I'm going to mark 35 with an L. That's our high level of activity and low level of activity. So we're just going to go through and plug numbers in to complete our formula here. It says cost at the high level of activity, and it looks like 202. And then we're going to subtract the low level of 142. High level of activity was 60. Low level was 35. So we do the math behind that, we get 60 divided by 60 minus 35, which is 25. So we'll take the 2, divide it out, and I get $2.40. And remember, B represents the variable cost component. So our variable cost component in the formula is going to be $2.40. Now you may look at that and say, okay, well, it's pretty easy to pick out high and low there. What if I had hundreds of numbers to pick from? Well, Excel can help you with that. I set up a spreadsheet with all kinds of random numbers on it from 1 to 100, and what you can do is you can just make a little formula equal MAX for maximum, and then just kind of highlight your grouping of numbers there, and it will tell you what the maximum number in that group is. You can do the same for the low number by doing equal min, which is minimum, and then go through and find the minimum number. So that's how you could do that if you weren't just given the information in a nice little table with 4 or 5 numbers on it. So we got our B taken care of. Let's look at step 2. Step 2 of the high-low method, we're going to calculate the total variable cost at the high level of activity and the low level of activity. So I'm going to take my $2.40 and I'm going to go find that high level of activity. Looks like we had a 60 number of shipments received. So I'm going to come back over and I'm going to plug that in, and I'm going to take $2.40 times that 60, and I get 144 as a total variable cost. Same with over here. I'm going to do the low level of activity, so I'm going to take $2.40 that we calculated before, and I'm going to find the low level 35 units, or number of shipments I should say, and we'll take that 240 times 35. So once I've got that total variable cost, I can kind of subtract that from the total cost to come up with A, which would be my fixed cost. Confused yet? So what we're going to do, we'll take our total cost at 60 shipments, which was 202, and subtract out 144 equal 202 minus 144. So I get A equals 58. Now watch what happens when we do the low level here. I'm going to find the low level weekly cost 142. I'm going to subtract from that 84, and you'll notice what happens. For both of those, I get A equals 58. So 58 is going to be my fixed cost component in the high-low method here. So all that's really left to do is plug in our variables. Y equals A plus BX. We said A, we just calculated, is going to be 58. I got that right there. 58. We said B was $2.40. So the formula is going to be Y equals $58 plus $2.40 times X, which is the level of activity. If we look back at the prompt, that's the answer to A. The prompt wants us to tell them what is the predicted amount of receiving report cost for a week in which we get 72 shipments. Okay, well, we've already got our formula, Y equals 58 plus 240 times X. So all we're going to do is plug 72 in for X. I'm just going to copy this formula down one, and I'm going to put in 72 for X. Okay, Y equals 58 plus 240 times 72. So Y equals $58 plus 172.80. We're just going to add those up, and we get $231. So your answer to B would be $231. The final prompt wants to know what are your concerns regarding your prediction from B. So we've made a calculation here. The one thing that might jump out at you, the level of activity was 72. If we look back at our data, our highest was 60. So we may be dealing with a number that's a little bit outside the relevant range that we've already started with.